It's been about 2 years since Midnight in Salem was released. What could be done to make this game better? It's got a lot of problems. There's a lot of room for improvement. I think the three major things that need to be changed are the conversations, the lack of puzzles, and the graphics. Let's start with the conversations. The characters in this game talk way too much. The talking to gameplay ratio is off the charts, especially at the start. The first half hour of the game is a 1 minute maze puzzle and 29 minutes of talking. Someone needs to impose a talking time limit of 5 minutes. No conversation goes over 5 minutes without a puzzle or some kind of gameplay to break things up. If the game followed that rule, it would be instantly improved. The conversations in this game are so long and slow, it ruins the pacing. Tegan's big confession doesn't leave the impact it should because it's sandwiched in between two other conversations. And then there's the culprit confrontation. That takes forever because the characters stand around and they talk and talk and talk and they just won't shut up. It really bored me and I just wished we could skip the whole thing. It's not a good sign when confronting the culprit at the end of the game makes you bored. I am on the fence when it comes to the conversations where the characters are recapping the story and planning what they're going to do next. On the one hand, I liked seeing Nancy talk things over with the Hardys and Deirdre. On the other hand, they're having conversations about conversations. That's just recursive and rude, and now I have a headache. I liked the last night of the game. That is probably the best part of the game. If the entire game had been like that, why, this game would have been so much better. It has a good balance of gameplay, puzzles, and conversations. A good part of that is because the conversations are shorter. The other reason it's the best part of the game is because it has actual puzzles. That's a big problem with Midnight in Salem. There are very few puzzles for the first 2/3 of the game. Like, the first day of the game has the puzzle of opening the judge's door and finding Olivia's ravens. That's all. That's supposed to be enough puzzles to tide you over for 2 hours. Because the first night of the game has 0 puzzles and almost no gameplay. I just checked my first playthrough of the game. The first night is 27 minutes long. That's 25 minutes of conversations. Don't believe me? Here's my summary of that first night. Nancy has a conversation with Deirdre, followed by a conversation with May. Nancy goes to the woods behind the graveyard, where she has a conversation with the Hardys, and she has a long conversation with Lauren. She sees a ghost outside. That's a cutscene. Then she has a long conversation with Deirdre and another conversation with the Hardys. That's the first night of the game. The only real gameplay where you get to control Nancy is when you walk through the woods. Everything else is just talking for 25 minutes. So, shorter conversations are a must. More puzzles and gameplay to break up the conversations are also a must. Since I'm being extra critical, I think they could have combined the first 2 days of the game into one day. It feels like they dragged some things out unnecessarily. There's no reason for Nancy to delay exploring the crime scenes until day 2. She should have done that on day 1. And same thing with asking May about her alibi. Nancy should have done that right away. The information that May's a burn victim shouldn't have been kept a secret until halfway through. And the characters of Jason, Lauren, and the Hardy Boys, they could have been around the whole time instead of showing up hours into the game. Another puzzle complaint I have is that the game thinks talk to everyone counts as a puzzle. It doesn't. Why on earth would you think having conversations is a break from having conversations? And yet the characters act like talking to everyone is a puzzle. It is put on Nancy's task list like it's a puzzle. Actually, day 2 puts talking to everyone on Nancy's task list twice, like it's a double puzzle. Ugh! The game has enough talking in it without pretending talking is a puzzle. Even if I did think talk to everyone counts as a unique puzzle, I would be annoyed because Talk to everyone is the main task on all 3 days of the game. It's just repeating the same thing. Not enough variety. A few more puzzle complaints. The wavelength puzzle in the graveyard is terrible. It is so awful. The first time I played the game, I got all the way to that puzzle and quit. It's not good. The decryption puzzle is too slow, and the drawers puzzle is too hard to see, but those are problems that could be fixed relatively easily. The other thing that people commonly complain about is the game's graphics. I'd say about a third of the graphics look unfinished. The museum and tea shop give me the impression that the designers were trying to get away with putting in the least amount of effort they could into making these environments. There's also closed off areas like the back part of the museum or May's bedroom. I get the sense those were originally going to be part of the game, but they didn't finish it in time, so they got cut. Likewise, the top floor of the museum serves no purpose. Maybe something was going to happen there. Or maybe I'm just being overly optimistic by thinking we've got areas that could have been in the game with more puzzles and things to do other than endless conversations. The characters of Tegan, Judge Danforth, and Alicia are the worst looking characters, in my opinion. All three of these characters stand behind a desk at a distance. They still look bad, even when you can't see them closely and there are things blocking your view of them. The bad character graphics are combined with bad animations. Tegan keeps flinging her hands around and flapping both arms like a chicken. Players are forced to watch this animation over and over again because Tegan never stops talking. To make it worse, a lot of the other characters make the exact same body movements. If you're going to copy-paste the same animations for every character, at least make it a realistic animation. The characters sway left and right a lot. They move their heads far more than normal people do. I suspect Frank has a crick in the back of his neck, and he's trying to get rid of it without having anyone else notice. Meanwhile, Joe looks like he has to go to the bathroom. He's always dancing around. Those are most of my thoughts on how you could fix the game. Let me quickly go through some of the minor problems. The game has technical difficulties, including a loading screen that takes forever. The navigation's a little clumsy in spots, particularly when you're trying to go around the big statue in the square. They could have done a better job of picking which spots Nancy stands in. I think the navigation is okay in general. Some people really hate it. I have seen games like Sherlock Holmes, where players can choose from multiple navigation styles, and it would have been neat if Midnight in Salem did that. The game does Ned dirty. His first conversation with Nancy's interrupted by a flirty girl. We never get any resolution to the subplot that Ned might be cheating on Nancy. You can miss his second phone call completely if you do things in a particular order. Also, we don't hear him talk during his phone call at the end of the game. The trivia question at the end of the game is low effort. It looks like somebody made it in 5 minutes. Same with the inventory icons. They look like placeholders which never got replaced. The Easter egg probably took a little more effort, but it's still disappointing compared to the Easter eggs in previous games. Someone complained this game is too linear. I think it's especially linear during the nighttime segments, where you must do things in a certain order with no variation. I already complained about the first night of the game, where there's nothing to do but talk, 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 walk forward, talk, 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 talk. Sarah mentioned that the story's a bit unfocused at times. Instead of staying focused on the arson and proving May's innocence, Nancy gets distracted, and she spends far more time focusing on the unrelated robbery at the courthouse. And she looks into the robbery in Germany and the tea poisoning, which are not things that directly deal with May. Nancy should have focused more on May. Alicia V. Parker did not like the lack of puzzle instructions. I agree. The hint button from games 26 to 32 was sorely missed. Some of those puzzles definitely needed just a hint button. I think that's enough complaining. In summary, I'm saying Midnight in Salem would be saved if the conversations were much shorter, if there was far more gameplay and puzzles, and if the worst graphics got touched up. Thank you for watching, everybody. Please like and subscribe. If you liked this video, I've also got videos where I talk about the ways they could improve Creature of Kapu Cave and Ransom of the Seven Ships. You might want to check out those ones too.